Hello, this is Shmuel Moshe, and you are listening to the Weekly Parashahcast Season 2, the show where I read the Tanakh and provide my own interpretation of what I think it all means. This week's episode falls during the 4th of Sivan, 5785, May 31st, 2025. The Parashat is Bamidbar, the start of the book of Bamidbar. But today we're going to be continuing where we left off last time in the book of Shmuel Bet as we continue our reading through the Tanakh, providing chapters 13 through 15 and my own interpretations of them. As always, I want to remind everybody I'm not a professional scholar, just somebody who wanted to study the scripture. So I'll be going ahead and jumping on in. You can follow along in English on Chabad.org. Without further ado, let's begin. Shmuel Bet, Chapter 13, verse 1. And it came to pass after this that Absalom the son of David had a fair sister whose name was Tamar, and Amnon the son of David loved her. And Amnon was distressed to the point of making himself sick on account of Tamar his sister, for she was a virgin, and it seemed difficult in Amnon's eyes to do anything unto her. And Amnon had a friend whose name was Yonadab the son of Shema, the brother of David, and Yonadab was a very sly man. And he said to him, Why are you becoming so thin, O son of the king, from morning to morning? Will you not tell me? And Amnon said to him, I love Tamar, the sister of Absalom. And Yonadab said to him, Lie down on your bed and feign sickness, and when your father comes to see you, say to him, Let my sister Tamar come now, and let her give me bread to eat, and prepare the food before my eyes, that I may see and eat from her hand. And Amnon lay down and feigned sickness, and the king came to see him. And Amnon said to the king, Let my sister Tamar come now, and make 2 dumplings before my eyes, that I may eat from her hand. And David sent home to Tamar, saying, Go now to your brother Amnon's house, and prepare the food for him. And Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house, and he was lying down. And she took the dough and kneaded it, and she prepared the dumplings before his eyes, and she cooked the dumplings. And she took the pan and poured them out before him, but he refused to eat. And Amnon said, Take everyone out from me. And everyone went out from him. And Amnon said to Tamar, Bring the food into the chamber, that I may eat from your hand. And Tamar took the dumplings that she had made, and brought them to Amnon her brother into the chamber. And she brought them near to eat. And he took hold of her, and said to her, Come, lie with me, sister. And she said to him, No, my brother, do not force me, for it is not done so in Israel. Do not do this wanton deed. And I, where shall I lead my shame? And as for you, you shall be like one of the profligate men in Israel. Now I beg of you to speak to the king, for he will not withhold me from you. But he would not heed her, and he overpowered her, and forced her, and lay with her. And Amnon hated her with very great hatred, for greater was the hatred with which he hated her than the love with which he had loved her. And Amnon said to her, Get up and go. And she said to him, Do not do this wrong, which is greater than the other one that you did to me by sending me away. But he did not listen to her. And he called his youth, his servant, and he said, Send now this one away from me outside, and lock the door after her. Now she had on a striped tunic, for in this manner the king's virgin daughters dressed in robes. And his servant brought her outside, and locked the door after her. And Tamar put ashes on her head, and rent her garment of many colors that was on her. And she laid her hand on her head, and went her way, crying aloud as she went. And Absalom her brother said to her, Has Amnon your brother been with you? But now, my sister, remain silent. He is your brother. Do not take this thing to heart. And Tamar stayed in solitude in her brother Absalom's house. And King David heard all these things, and became very angry. And Absalom spoke with Amnon neither bad nor good, for Absalom hated Amnon because he had forced his sister Tamar. And it happened after 2 whole years that Absalom had sheep shearers in Baal Hazor, which is beside Ephraim. And Absalom invited all the king's sons. And Absalom came to the king and said, Behold now, your servant has sheep shearers. Let the king and his servants please go with your servant. And the king said to Absalom, No, my son, let us not all go, lest we impose upon you. And he pressed him, but he would not go, but he did bless him. And Absalom said, If not, please let my brother Amnon go with us. And the king said to him, Why should he go with you? But Absalom pressed him, and he let Amnon and all the king's sons go with him. And Absalom commanded his youth, saying, Please take note. When Amnon's heart is merry with wine, and when I say to you, Smite Amnon, then kill him. Fear not. Have I not commanded you to be courageous and valiant? And Absalom's servants did to Amnon as Absalom had commanded. And all the king's sons arose, and they rode off, each one on his mule, and they fled. And it came to pass, while they were on their way, that the news came to David, saying, Absalom has slain all the king's sons, and not one of them is left. And the king arose, and tore his clothes, and lay on the ground, and all his servants stood with their clothes torn. And Jonadab, the son of David's brother Shema, answered, and said, Let not my lord say that they have killed all the young men, the king's sons. For Amnon alone is dead. For by the mouth of Absalom has this been arranged from the day he forced Tamar his sister. And now let not my lord the king put to his heart the thing to say that all the king's sons are dead, but only Amnon is dead. And Absalom fled, and the young man that kept watch raised his eyes and looked, and behold, a large crowd was coming from the way behind him by the hillside. And Jonadab said to the king, Behold, the king's sons have come, as your servant said, so it was. And it was, as soon as he had finished speaking, that, behold, the king's sons came and raised up their voices and cried, and also the king and all his servants wept profusely. And Absalom fled, and he went to Talmai, the son of Ammihud, the king of Geshur, and he mourned for his son all the days. And Absalom fled, and he went to Geshur, and he was there 3 years. And the soul of King David longed to go forth to Absalom, for he was comforted concerning Amnon, being that he was dead. End of chapter 13. All right, so here we now start seeing the turmoil within the house of David. Remember last time Bathsheba and David performed their situation. David was given his curse from God to be punished, his house with no conflict. Here we're seeing it happen. So it turns out that David's many sons, one of them is named Amnon, and he has a half-sister named Tamar. So Absalom is the full brother of Tamar. Amnon is both of their half-brother. So they have a different mom from Amnon. Now, Amnon really, really, really likes Tamar. He wants to be with her, and there's just nothing else for it. And so he's getting sick over how much he's craving her. And his friend gives him a tip. He says, why don't you pretend to be sick and then basically go through this little plan where you ask the king to have your sister Tamar come bring you some food, and then you take advantage of that moment to have her. And so he does exactly this, and Tamar, commanded by the king, goes to aid her half-brother. And in the moment when the two of them are alone, after he sends everyone else away, he forces himself upon her. Now, the thing here is that Tamar tries to appeal to him, don't do this, because this is not what we do in Israel, right? It is not done so in Israel. Do not do this wanton deed. Where shall I lead my shame? And as for you, you should be like one of the profligate men in Israel. She says, now I beg of you to speak to the king, for he will not withhold me from you. So let's talk about the extreme of that sentence there. He is basically being told, if you will just talk to our father the king, he will give me to you. So she is begging him, don't rape me, in no other terms. Like, do not rape me. At least ask our father that I can be with you officially, and then nobody will have to go through the dishonor of what you're about to do. Now, it's already not permissible in the Torah, if I recall correctly, for these half-siblings to be together in the contemporary definitions of what is given to Moses. So, prior to Moses, that's one thing, but in the time of Moses onward, it's stated that, siblings can't be together, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, this thing that he's about to do is so bad that she's actually appealing, please, even do that, just don't assault me. Nevertheless, he refuses, and so he ends up forcing himself upon her. And it says that he hated her with very great hatred, for greater was the hatred with which he hated her than the love with which he had loved her. So in other words, he actually, as crazy about her as he was, he hated her even more for some reason. I can't exactly say why that is, but that's just his wickedness. So, nevertheless, he hates Tamar more than he loves Tamar, and he apparently really loves Tamar. No, he lusts for Tamar, because if he wanted it to be real love, he could have simply done as she said. But no, he refused. He insisted upon doing this wicked deed. And then, after he was done doing what he did, he simply sent her away, which she begged him not to do for her own shame, but he refused, and he cast her out, and so she put ashes on her head, torn her garment, which indicated her virginity, and she went off crying out loud as she went. And so Absalom, her brother, her full brother, asks, has Amnon your brother been with you? But now, sister, remain silent. He is your brother. Do not take this thing to heart. So instead, Absalom negotiated this little situation so that Tamar could just drop the matter for now. And it says that she stayed in solitude in her brother Absalom's house. So from what I understand by that sentence, Tamar never was able to go on to be a wife and all that. She lived with her brother in solitude. So that is the curse of what was done to her. Now, David hears about it, and he is very, very unhappy. It says he's very angry. Now, Absalom, brother of Tamar, half-brother of Amnon, it says he does not speak neither good nor bad with Amnon, because he absolutely hates Amnon because of what he did to Tamar. So 2 years later, Absalom finally activates his secret plan. What he has done is he's got these sheep shearers. And so what he says to the king is, I've got these sheep shearers, so, oh, king, why don't you come with me? And all your servants and everybody. And the king says, oh, no, my son, we won't go, lest we impose upon you. And he's like, please, I insist. And David says, no, but I will bless you on your way. And so then Absalom goes, okay, well, if not, please let my brother Amnon go. And he says, why him? And so, why should he go with you? And basically Absalom presses the issue. And so all the sons of David go with Amnon to the sheep shearers of Absalom. And so now he's got his plan underway. This shows how very crafty Absalom really is. So he starts by inviting the king, and he's like, oh, well, if you won't come to the sheep shearers, Dad, why don't you let me take my brother Amnon? And he's like, why would I have you go with your brother Amnon? And so he manages to make this not just about Amnon, but all the sons of the king. So it's a brotherly bonding moment. That's definitely what this is about. So he manages to conceal his intentions from David, and then he tells his people, his youths, his servants, when I tell you, smite Amnon, kill him. And so that's exactly what happens. Amnon gets drunk while they're all together, and he has him killed. And the other brothers now run away, and they flee for their lives. Now, while they're on their way back to David, news about what happened gets to David first, and they tell him, all your sons have been killed by Absalom. And this causes David tremendous grief and distress. But then Jonadab, son of David's brother Shema, so his nephew, says, let not my lord say that they have killed all the young men, the king's sons, for Amnon alone is dead. For by the mouth of Absalom this had been arranged from the day he forced Tamar, his sister. So Jonadab either knew or he figured this all out because he was wise to how Absalom felt. Nevertheless, he basically says, David, do not worry, your sons are alive. It's just that Amnon was killed because of what happened to Tamar. And so, after this, it comes to be so. One, Absalom runs away because he committed this murder, and then all the rest of the sons get home, and there's no problem. So, as it turns out, Absalom fled. The young man kept watch, raised his eyes, and looked. Behold, a large crowd was coming from the way behind him by the hillside. Jonadab said to the king, behold, the king's sons have come, as your servant said, so it was. So they're all now there. And David and his servants, they all cry out, they weep profusely, and it says Absalom flees to Talmai, the son of Ammihud, king of Geshur. So this is where he's hiding out, and he mourned for his son all the days. So I'm assuming by that it means that David was in mourning. Did it mean that he was mourning Absalom, or was he mourning Amnon? So the answer is he was mourning for Absalom, because it says here in the last line, 3 years Absalom was in Geshur, but the soul of David longed to go forth to Absalom, for he was comforted concerning Amnon, being that he was dead. So David had been carrying the grief of what Amnon had done all this time, and it turns out that he wasn't really mad at Absalom for doing it, though he does, of course, still have obligations as the throne to be a certain way, but he wishes he could be with his son again. In any case, we'll continue on to chapter 14 of Samuel 2, verse 1. And Joab the son of Zeruiah knew that the king's heart longed for Absalom. And Joab sent to Tekoa, and took from there a wise woman, and he said to her, Please pretend to be a mourner, and please put on mourning clothes, and do not anoint yourself with oil, but be as a woman who has mourned many days for the dead. And come to the king and speak to him in this manner. And Joab put the words into her mouth. And the woman of Tekoa spoke to the king, and fell to the ground, and prostrated herself. And she said, Save, O king! And the king said to her, What ails you? And she said, Truly, I am a woman who is a widow, and my husband is dead. And your handmaid had 2 sons, and they both fought in the field, and there was no rescuer between them. And one struck the other, and killed him. And behold, the whole family rose against your handmaid, and said, Deliver the one that struck his brother whom he slew, and so destroy also the heir. And so they shall quench my coal which is left, so as not to leave my husband a name or a remainder upon the face of the earth. And the king said to the woman, Go to your house, and I will give orders about you. And the woman of Tekoa said to the king, On me, my lord the king, be the iniquity, and on my father's house and the king and his throne be guiltless. And the king said, Whoever speaks to you, bring him to me, and he shall no longer continue to touch you. And she said, I beg you, let the king remember the Lord your God, that the avenger of blood destroy not excessively, so that they destroy not my son. And he said, As the Lord lives, if one hair of your son shall fall to the earth. And the woman said, May your handmaid speak a word with my lord the king? And he said, Speak. And the woman said, Why have you thought such a thing about the people of God? Now consider not that the king in speaking this word has done so accidentally, so that the king shall not bring back his banished one. For die we must, and are as water that is spilt on the ground which cannot be gathered again. And God favors not a soul, but he devises means that he that is banished be not cast from him. And now my motive for me having to come speak of this thing to the king my lord is because the people have made me afraid. And your maidservant said, I will now speak to the king, perhaps the king will perform the request of his handmaid. For the king will hear to deliver his maidservant from the hand of the man that would destroy me and my son together out of the inheritance of God. And your handmaid said, Let, I pray, the word of my lord the king be for comfort, for as an angel of God, so is my lord the king to discern the good and the bad, and the Lord your God may be with you. And the king answered, and he said to the woman, I beg you not to hide from me anything that I shall ask you. And the woman said, Let my lord the king please speak. And the king said, Is the hand of Joab with you in all this? And the woman answered and said, As your soul lives, my lord the king, if anyone can turn to the right or to the left from all that my lord the king has spoken. For your servant Joab he bade me, and he put in the mouth of your handmaid all these words, in order to bring about the face of the matter. Has your servant Joab done this thing? And my lord is wise according to the wisdom of an angel of God to know all that is in the earth. And the king said to Joab, Behold, now you have done this thing. Now go bring back the young man Absalom. And Joab fell on his face to the ground, and he prostrated himself, and he blessed the king. And Joab said, Today your servant knows that I have found favor in your eyes, my lord, O king, in that the king has done the request of your servant. And Joab arose and went to Geshur, and he brought Absalom to Jerusalem. And the king said, Let him turn to his house, but my face let him not see. And Absalom turned to his house, and the king's face he saw not. Now, like Absalom, there was not a man in all Israel as beautiful, to be as totally praiseworthy for beauty. From the sole of his feet to the crown of his head there was no blemish in him. And when he shaved his head, and it was at every year's end that he shaved it, because the hair was heavy on him, that he would shave it, he weighed the hair of his head at 200 shekels after the king's weight. And to Absalom were born 3 sons and 1 daughter, whose name was Tamar, and she was a woman of beautiful appearance. And Absalom dwelt in Jerusalem 2 full years, and the king's face he did not see. And Absalom sent to Joab to send him to the king, and he would not come to him. And he sent again a second time, and he would not come. And he said to his servants, See, Joab's field is near mine, and he is barley there. Go and set it on fire. And Absalom sent the servants to set the field on fire. And Joab arose, and he came to Absalom to his house, and he said to him, Why have your servants set my field on fire? And Absalom said to Joab, Behold, I have sent to you, saying, Come here, that I may send you to the king, to say, Why have I come from Geshur? It would be better for me were I still there. And now I will see the king's face. and if there be iniquity in me, let him kill me. And Joab came to the king, and he told him. And he called for Absalom, and he came to the king, and he prostrated himself to him on his face to the ground before the king. And the king kissed Absalom. End of chapter 14. So a quick summary. This one's quite a piece of dialogue. I'm going to try to make it simple without overemphasizing the exact words spoken. Joab, he understands that he really wants Absalom to come back. And he knows the king wishes he could see Absalom. So he gets a woman and he has her play the role of a grieving widow who has one son that was killed by another son. And what she is attempting to do is to get the king to say to her that the son who killed the other son should still be allowed to live. In other words, let's not punish him for killing his brother over the matter. She's trying to get, and this is really Joab's plan, is to get David to make a decree so that he can use that decree as a precedent to get Absalom returned home. So that's exactly ultimately what will happen here. After all this back and forth, the king puts two and two together and he realizes that this is what's going on. So he asks her, "Tell me the truth. Did Joab put you up to this?" And she says, "My lord the king, you are a wise man, and as an angel, yes, Joab put me up to this." And so he says to Joab, "All right, Joab, get in here. I see what you've done. Behold. Okay, go get Absalom and bring him home." And at this, Joab is just greatly pleased. But he says to him, when he comes back, send him to his house and have him not look upon me. He shall not look upon my face. That is the punishment. I'm letting him come home, but he will not look upon my face. And so that's exactly as it was. Now, as it says here, Absalom was the most beautiful man in all of Israel, and he had a ton of hair, that when he would shave all his hair at the end of the year, it weighed 200 shekels. So, this is basically saying how beautiful this guy was. Wow. And he also has 3 sons and 1 daughter whose name was Tamar. She was beautiful. Now, again, her name being Tamar, this is interesting. She's named after the sister that was violated. So does this imply that Tamar had been killed? I don't know. But nevertheless, he ensures that the name Tamar remains in the house. Now, the other way to possibly read this, though I don't know that it's correct, is to say that Tamar is actually the same Tamar, now adopted by him, but she's going by the same name. This is like a totally far-fetched interpretation I'm making up on the spot, and if for the sake of her honor, she's like a totally new person. Or this is just Tamar's niece that is the same person named after. So either way, he's got a daughter named Tamar who's apparently beautiful. Now, Absalom sends out to Joab and he says, get Joab here so I can be sent to see the king. And Joab refuses to come see him. And he says, send Joab to me so he can send me to the king. He asks a second time. And Joab still refuses to go see Absalom. So he's like, all right, I see how it's going to be. Servants, go light Joab's field on fire. And in doing this, Joab responds, Absalom, what are you doing? You set my field on fire. And he says, yes, I did. Now I have your attention. I've sent to you to come here so that you could go talk to the king and ask him a question for me. And you have refused to come see me. So now that I have your attention, here's what I want you to go ask the king. Why am I here? Why have I come from Geshur? It'd be better for me if I was still out there. So now I'm going to see the king's face, and if there's a problem, let him kill me. Simple as. So Joab goes to the king, he tells him the story, and David calls for Absalom, and he presents himself to the king, and he prostrates himself, and all that good stuff. And the response is, David kisses him. So, congratulations, Absalom, you are not put to death. With that, we're going to go ahead and move on to chapter 15, the last one for this episode. Shmuel Bet chapter 15, verse 1. And it came to pass after this that Absalom made for himself a chariot and horses, and 50 men were running before him. And Absalom would rise up and stand beside the path of the gate. And it was when any man that would have a suit due to come to the king for judgment, then Absalom called to him, and he said, From what city are you? And he said, Of the tribes of Israel is your servant. And Absalom said to him, See, your words are good and right, but there is none of the king's judges to hear you. And Absalom said, Oh, who will appoint me judge in the land? And every man who has a quarrel or suit will come to me. Then I will surely do him justice. And it would be, when a man came near to prostrate himself before him, that he put forth his hand and took hold of him and kissed him. And Absalom did likewise to all the Israelites that came to the king for judgment. And Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. And it came to pass at the end of 40 years, and Absalom said to the king, Allow me to go, I beg you, and pay my vow which I vowed to the Lord in Hebron. For your servant vowed a vow during my stay in Geshur and Aram, saying, If the Lord shall bring me back to Jerusalem, then I will serve the Lord. And the king said to him, Go in peace. And he arose and went to Hebron. And Absalom sent spies throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, As soon as you hear the sound of the shofar, then you shall say, Absalom is king in Hebron. And with Absalom went 200 men that were invited, and went in their innocence, and did not know of anything. And Absalom sent for Ahithophel the Gilonite, David's counselor, from his city, from Gilo, as he offered the sacrifices. And the conspiracy was strong, and the people with Absalom were steadily increasing. And the messenger came to David, saying, The hearts of the people of Israel are after Absalom. And David said to all his servants that were with him in Jerusalem, Arise and let us flee, for there will be no escape for us from Absalom. Go quickly, lest he hurry and overtake us, and bring upon us evil, and smite the city with the edge of the sword. And the king's servants said to the king, Whatever my lord the king shall choose, behold, your servants are ready to do. And the king went forth, and all his household were right behind him. And the king led 10 women who were concubines to keep the house. And the king went forth, and all the people were right behind him, and they remained standing at the farthest house. And all his servants passed on behind him, and all the archers, and all the slingers, and all the Gittites, 600 men that came after him from Gath, passed on before the king. And the king said to Ittai the Gittite, Why do you go with us? Return, and abide with the king, for you are a foreigner, and if you are wont to wander, go to your own place. Only yesterday you came, and today I should move you about with us, seeing that I go wherever I can go. Return and take back your brothers with you, and do kindness and truth to them. And Ittai answered the king and said, As the Lord lives, and as my lord the king lives, that in the place where my lord the king shall be, whether for life or for death, for there shall your servant be. And David said to Ittai, Go and pass over. And Ittai the Gittite passed over, and so did all his men and all the little ones that were with him. And all the land wept with a loud voice, and all the people passed over. And the king passed over the brook Kidron, and all the people passed over toward the way of the wilderness. And lo, Zadok also came, and all the Levites with him, bearing the ark of the covenant of God. And they set down the ark of God, and Abiathar went up until all the people had finished passing out of the city. And the king said to Zadok, Carry back the ark of the God to the city. If I find favor in the eyes of the Lord, then he will bring me back, and he will show me it and his habitation. But if so he says, I do not want you, behold, here I am. Let him do to me as seems good in his eyes. And the king said to Zadok the priest, Do you not see? Return to the city in peace, and Ahimaaz your son, and Jonathan the son of Abiathar, your 2 sons, shall be with you. See, I will tarry in the plains of the wilderness, until there comes word from you to announce me. And Zadok and Abiathar returned the ark of God to Jerusalem, and they abode there. And David went up by the ascent of the Mount of Olives, weeping as he went up, and he had his head covered, and he went barefoot. And of all the people that were with him, every man covered his head, weeping as they went up. And someone said to David, Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom. And David said, Make foolish, I beg you, the counsel of Ahithophel, O Lord. And David was coming up to the top where he would prostrate himself to God. And behold, towards him came Hushai the Archite, with his shirt torn and earth upon his head. And David said to him, If you pass on with me, you will be a burden to me. But if you return to the city, and you say to Absalom, I, O king, will be your servant, just as I was previously your father's servant, and now I am your servant, then you will be able to frustrate from me the counsel of Ahithophel. And have you not there with you Zadok and Abiathar the priest? And it shall therefore be that everything you hear from the king's house you shall tell Zadok and Abiathar the priests. And behold, they have there with them their 2 sons, Ahimaaz to Zadok, and Jonathan to Abiathar. And through them you shall send to me everything you hear. And Hushai the Archite friend of David, came into the city, and Absalom was coming to Jerusalem. End of chapter 15. So quite a bit to cover here. This is a great big conspiracy, starting with Absalom's grand plot. So it starts that he rises up, and he has a chariot and 50 men running before him, so he's building up some pretty good renown for himself. He's got a good image. He's, of course, also quite beautiful, as we've heard. So what he's doing is he will wait for people to come up seeking judgments from the king, and he will actually intercept them and say, oh, don't worry, listen, the king does not have judges for you, but me? Look at me. I'm your guy. I will judge fairly. So people basically start getting tricked by this cleverness of Absalom, and he wins over their opinion. He starts becoming the guy that represents the will of the people. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to become known as the judge who will recognize and fairly judge the causes of the people. And in doing so, he's gradually building up his renown and building his prestige among the people. And so every time an Israelite will come to visit, Absalom presents himself, and they go back thinking, wow, that Absalom guy is great. Now 40 years go by, and Absalom activates his plan. He says, King David, allow me to go back and pay my vow, which I vowed to the Lord in Hebron. I said that if I would be delivered to Jerusalem, I would serve the Lord, so let me go and do that. And David, believing him, says, go in peace, and he goes to Hebron. Now, at this point, he sends his spies throughout the land, and he tells them, as soon as you hear the sound of the shofar, declare that Absalom is king in Hebron. And with this, it says, with Absalom went 200 men that were invited. They did not know. So it says they went in innocence and did not know of anything. So they had no idea about this conspiracy. But Absalom brought them along to give himself some more legitimacy. So it's very twisted, very unfair. Nevertheless, a messenger comes to David and tells him, the hearts of the people are after Absalom. Like, the Israelites now love Absalom. And so David, recognizing the circumstances, understands that there's a coup in progress. He says, we got to get out of here. Once he gets, there will be no escaping him because the people love him. So we need to escape. Let us get out of here so that the city does not get cut down. And so his servants basically say, whatever you say to do, we'll do it. And he leads. So the king leaves. All his household are right behind him. The king led the 10 women who are concubines to keep the house. So it seems that these 10 women are left behind to basically take over the day-to-day affairs in Jerusalem. But David and all his people are leaving. Now it says that he and his servants pass on, all the archers, the slingers, and all the Gittites, 600 men that came after him from Gath, passed on before the king. Now it's not clear when these Gittites arrived, because David refers to it as you've only gotten here yesterday. But remember that when David was in exile himself, he was living amongst the people of Gath as well. So there seems to be still some meaningful relationship between David and the people of Gath. So he says to them, why are you coming with me? You're a stranger, a wanderer. Why would you come with me? You should go back. And they say, no, we go where you go. So that's what he says plainly. He tells them, go back and take your brothers with you. No, we refuse, king. Where you go, I go. And so, sure enough, he says, life or death, I'm with you. And so with this, he tells this guy, E30 the Gittite, to pass over the brook first. Then the other people do. And finally, David crosses over, and now they're in the wilderness. And so from this, Zadok and all the Levites come bearing the Ark of the Covenant. So they're running after David with the Ark, and they bring it to him. And David says, no. Take the Ark back, bring it to the city. I'll see it again if God wants me to. Otherwise, don't worry about me. Instead, here's what you're going to do. You take the Ark back, I keep going. So David goes and he ascends the Mount of Olives weeping, and he's quite devastated. And he hears from somebody that Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom who are trying to overthrow David. So he begs, "O Lord, make the counsel of Ahithophel foolish." Now, as he's begging and praying, Hushai the Archite arrives, and he's obviously also in distress. His shirt is torn, earth upon his head. And he says, "Hushai, if you go with me, you're just going to be a burden. But if you go back to the city and swear your loyalty to Absalom, you can help us undermine his coup and undermine his judgments. So that's the move you should make here. Go back, and along with Zadok and Abiathar and their sons, you guys can help me find out what's really going on in the city. You'll be my informants, and you can help frustrate the council of Absalom. So all in all, that's David's plan. With this, Hushai, Archite, friend of David, goes to the city, and Absalom is on his way to Jerusalem. And that is how things are going to go. It is now, David has his plan of counterintelligence, and from here we conclude chapter 15. So we see the manifestation of David's guilt and the promise of his house being at war. We see Absalom, his son, attempting a coup to secure himself the throne and overthrow David. And now we see David doing what he has to do to survive and overcome this military operation. Quite an interesting development, isn't it? Nevertheless, we can think about a few things. The fact that David did not punish Amnon for raping Tamar is probably why Absalom has this vendetta, that he would ultimately do this, or he just has his own ambition. But either way, there are some reasons to hold a grudge with David because of his failure to rule against Amnon after what he did to Tamar, Absalom's sister. In any case, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, this is Shmuel Moshe with the Weekly Parashahcast saying, as always, Baruch Hashem.